This is the Domain Magnet Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Michael Beroslavsky.
Hello, this podcast is brought to you by Domain Magnet, a micro private equity firm where we buy and grow online businesses. And currently we have an offer of group buy, where we find some really great online business deals and allow people to participate in those deals through joining the group buy. So go to domainmagnet.com to check out some more details. And our today's guest is Kévin Jourdan, co-founder of Dotmarket.eu, a French website marketplace. So I'm really excited to learn about how people buy and sell online businesses and websites in France. Hi, Kévin.
Hi, Michael. Happy to be here.
So could you give us a brief intro first? How did you get into buying, selling websites?
Yeah, sure. Fair enough. That will give you a quick overview. How do you go from creating them to actually selling them? I started as a website editor back in 2012, reading some blogs that you may know, actually, Smart Passive Income, Niche Pursuits, who were the guys back then, and kind of still are, to teach people how to build websites, I believe. So that's the way I started in 2012. It quickly became my main activity. 2014, building websites in various niches became my main hobby and job. And over the years, eventually, after growing some, you start considering the fact that you could sell some. Obviously, you know that since you've been there too. And you consider buying some to save the time, save the energy, and go straight to what's exciting, scaling them. So all of these years doing it gave me not the idea, because the idea was obviously there. It's nothing new, building a marketplace to help people achieve their sales. But the idea to develop something similar than Empire Flippers was doing in the States and didn't really exist on the French market. So I did buy and sell websites using my own network. No platform was doing it. Why not open my own? That's basically how I started Dotmarket.
And so have you only managed websites in French before? Have you also acquired some in English?
I've tried working on some English websites. I used to live in the Philippines, so obviously there English was the main language. Yeah. But it's always been easier for me to grow, especially for the outreach campaigns, to work on the French market. So I haven't lasted long on the English sites and quickly came back to dealing with stuff that I could actually do really well, especially since at the beginning I was writing my own articles. I do believe that my English is okay to understand, and I have a pretty good written English, but it's not good enough to build a great website and get this authority you need today with native speakers. So quickly got back to building French websites only.
And so what was the biggest website that you've had in French? How much was it making? And did you build it or buy it?
So the biggest one is still actually a website that we edit. We actually created a company around it. It's a dog website. It generates about 300,000 visitors a month and between 10 to 12,000 euros. I speak euros, if you don't mind.
Sure.
A month. So that's basically our biggest site at the moment. And we bought it. We bought a very small one in the dog industry in 2017. We completely rebranded it because the name wasn't very good to actually scale the website, and it was a little bit touchy on the dog lovers aspect of it, if I may say. And we've been growing it since then. So every year it gets a little bit bigger, and every year we buy other businesses in the dog niche.
Very interesting. And can you tell us how much you bought it for and what was it earning at that time?
Yeah, we bought it for 12,000 euros in 2017. And back then it was generating maybe 600 to 700 euros per month. But the multiples don't make much sense because the guy we bought it from was a client of mine. So we basically forced the sale by paying. Definitely, we paid much more than what it was worth back then. And we'll talk about it later, but the multiples that we paid back then are basically what we should pay today. So in 4 years, it can grow a lot. And probably back then we should have paid like 7,000 or 8,000 euros, but we really wanted that website. It had really good positions on rankings, on keywords that we wanted to start working on. So, and we definitely made our money back anyways. So it was a good buy.
And was there some quick wins? Were you able to just grow the website like immediately by changing monetization or things like that? Or was it more like a slow, steady growth, adding more content and links?
It's been a little bit of both. At first, it was a slow and steady growth. And it started really growing when we rebranded the website. For some reason, after a while, the website started declining in terms of rankings and traffic. So we made the decision to rebrand it because anyways, we wanted to change that brand, but we didn't want to take the risk at first to play with redirection and whatever. But eventually doing it opened new opportunities. And after that, it quickly grew. It quickly grew in traffic, but the real win was when my business partner decided that we should finally let go a little bit about the ethical aspect and plug some insurance comparison affiliation on the website, which we didn't want to do at first. I really had this will to keep growing it, only pushing online dog training. But, after a while, you have to make real money. So we decided to actually give it a try. And fair enough, it doubled our income. So we never got back to removing it, obviously.
Very cool. So is the main source of revenue like pet insurance or what is it?
It's a mix, but pet insurance is definitely a big part, as well as pet food.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, and then you have smaller amounts coming from Amazon, obviously coming from dog training affiliate programs and other small stuff. But insurance and pet food are definitely the two main ones working for the French market.
Yeah, very interesting. So, I've been in this space for about 16 years, and I've started by building the site in English, even though my English wasn't that good at the time. So I had to kind of learn and get better at it and start writing like better articles, and then, of course, hiring writers to write better content. But I've always looked at other languages. So first I looked at other languages that I actually speak, that I understand, but there wasn't that much like space or competition. So I looked at Russian, at Hebrew, a little bit at Spanish. The Spanish was definitely the biggest market. There were like out of those, that I could understand. I didn't look at the French market before, but I know there is also some market in the Netherlands, in Dutch. So it's really interesting to explore those like the markets in different languages to see how it compares to the US market with English language sites. So yeah, I'm curious how it really compares. Right now, if you're buying a content website in English for a reasonable amount with some decent revenue, as we know, it's probably the average going to be somewhere around 3 times annual profit. More or less, yeah, bit more, bit less. How does that compare to the French market?
It's basically 2/3 of it. We're currently more around 2 years of profit when it comes to selling on. Okay, that's different. Public market will be 2 years. Then obviously you can sell a bit more expensive. If it's like a really big site, if it's a huge media site, if it comes with a lot of assets around, and if you find the perfect buyer. But if we just stick to public marketplaces, such as the one you use to maybe source some of the deals, Empire Flippers, Flippa, or whoever is on the market, and there are more and more around, then yeah, it's basically 2/3 of the US price at the moment.
Okay, very good. So you can buy it at double the current annual profit. And how does the quality compare? Would you say a quality of content, of links? Like in the English speaking market, most of the websites are not very good quality. Like it's mostly websites that are built by people who want to grow them aggressively through SEO and then sell. And often you buy them and they would drop in rankings. Is it similar in French? Or would you say it's more higher quality?
We do have a bit the same. I had this debate this morning on Twitter with some SEO folks not being happy that I criticized the fact that most SEO want to buy cheap and sell expensive, crappy sites. But I guess building websites to sell them in France is definitely not as huge as on the English market. So the level of education makes it much more difficult to find a huge number of websites for sale. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, it's a good thing because it means more websites built by people who have absolutely no idea that they could sell it. And those people usually put more passion and time, and there are a lot of quick wins when you're actually in that field and you buy the website from someone who's basically getting retired but actually grew a business online. Usually you have a lot of quick wins on those websites. The counterpart of that is that the market is less educated, so obviously the prices are cheaper. That's bad on the seller side. Obviously it's good on the buyer one. And it's much harder to educate people and to explain to them exactly how it's going to work. So we are not covered by potential deals in France. Like, it's hard work to convince people that they could and should sell their businesses, but there are a lot of buyers on the market, more and more, who know about it. But yeah, not so many sellers, I would say, compared to the US market and English market in general.
So are there a lot more buyers in the French market than sellers? Are there many people who are actively looking to acquire good assets in French?
Yeah, more and more. And it's covering a lot of different audiences. For instance, on Dotmarket, we've identified at least 4 of them, and we're starting to discuss with the 5th. Obviously, you have beginners, people who are just discovering the digital world and want to launch their first business. But since COVID, you've had a lot of people as well considering launching an activity as a side project, because maybe they lost their job, or maybe they lost a part of income, or at least they just have a lot more time and they want to spend it building something different. So that's one audience. The second one is obviously website editors, from small to bigger sizes. You have a lot of people in France editing websites, but they're not necessarily selling. They're more buying to grow their empires and not so much selling it for now. Then you have media agencies. This is obviously the best buyers. They know exactly what they're looking for. They basically acquire audiences to grow their market shares or just plug their products and services. So that's an easy one. And the fourth one that we work a lot with and that we like is more of an entrepreneur kind of audience. So people not looking for just an Amazon website, but a more global project. So they could be considering SaaS, even though we don't do SaaS much, because again, very late on that part on the French market, but they will consider websites with a brand, websites with multiple sources of traffic, revenues, whatever, and they will buy it with an idea of making it become their main project, opposite to website editors who may just accumulate website to grow a bigger audience, a bigger revenues. And the 5th one, this one we haven't started working with, but we've started having discussions with, is basically you guys, Domain Magnet and other PE groups and funds, not necessarily from France, but from the US or from Asia or from Northern Europe, considering the French market in a shy way because you still have to handle the French market, but considering the market mostly because of the arbitrage opportunity and this big gap that's growing bigger and bigger every year, because obviously from one year to another, we didn't double the value. Whereas when you consider the US market, it's been growing like crazy and it went, okay, you talked about 36, but now it's not rare to see 40, 48, 50 on some of the marketplaces. Whereas in France, maybe in 2 years, it went from average 22 to average 24 months. So not such a big growth on it.
Okay, very interesting. So tell us some more details about your marketplace, Dotmarket.eu. What's the size? How many deals do you have there currently? How many closed?
So it's French-sized content.
Yeah.
Meaning that it's probably not going to be super exciting numbers if you take an international market. Like I'm always super excited to read the reports from F International or from Empire Flippers and see what kind of deals they can sell. Back then, I shared a tweet when Empire Flippers shared their Q4 or Q3 numbers, saying that they basically generated $3 million worth of commissions. Well, basically, we generated $3 million worth of gross sales for this year. So market size is way different. It doesn't mean that we couldn't do better. Obviously, the first year we sold about 20 websites, 24 websites, but with very low value. We had to test the market, test our process, gain credibility as well on the market. That wasn't an easy part. Then this year we started working on bigger deals. We've been selling about 2.5 to 3 million euros worth of website for 2021 as of today. And we hope to reach the 4 million to 5 million mark by the end of the year. How does this compare to the international market? Obviously, it's very small. What kind of market share does that represent for France? It's kind of hard to say because the landscape is changing very quickly. But I do believe that we should be able to reach 10 to 15 million next year. And from there, our best option would be to start working on other EU markets and not stay, stuck on our French market. Even if it's growing, it might not be growing fast enough if we want to grow much bigger the company.
Okay, very good. So this year you've done 2.5 million euros already.
Yep.
And how many deals is that? What's the average?
And that's a much lower number of deals. We cut all the smaller deals. So we are currently 10 to 12 deals for 2021. And then we recently decided again to accept again smaller deals because sometimes it just goes for 2 months and we don't have small websites for sale and we have a big audience that's actually looking for smaller sites. So we're trying to find the right balance between working on bigger deals. And when I say bigger, again, French market bigger. So I'm not talking €1 million worth of website. I'm talking a few 100,000 euros worth of websites. That's a big deal already for France. And we try to find the right balance between those bigger deals and much smaller deals, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 euros, where we have a much bigger audience. But obviously, it's basically the same amount of work on both of them. So, you have to find the balance to be profitable as well.
And what's the biggest one you've sold so far?
The biggest one we've sold was close to $2 million. It was in the bed industry. Amazon and other affiliates bed comparison websites.
Okay, very cool. So is it all just content websites right now?
No, we started with content website because that's my personal background. So that's where we had the most, it was for us the easiest to actually create some auditing process, right? But the biggest number of websites we receive for estimation and sale is actually e-commerce sites. So as of today, we try and recruit more content sites, but we have more e-commerce sites for sale.
Okay, very interesting.
And very few SaaS. Like we've had 2, and it's quite hard to actually sell SaaS. In France, the market is even less educated. Like there is a good chance that a company like MicroAcquire would be capable of making more business on the French market in the SaaS industry than us, just because people who know about SaaS, they go straight to expert. And on that part, MicroAcquire is definitely one of them. And it's very hard to penetrate the niche of actual SaaS owners and SaaS investors on the French market.
Very good. And what's your commission rate currently?
So we're between 10 and 13%. That varies depending on the amount, obviously. But one thing that we adjusted compared to most of our competitors, if I may say, and I don't really consider English platform as competitors because we kind of have deals with a few of them where we send them English website and sometimes they send us French websites. But anyway, competitor, if we consider the market in general, instead of charging the seller, because we are on a market where we have way more buyers than sellers, we decided to apply a 3% commission rate to sellers and to add a 10% markup, going down to 7.5 if it's over €1 million deal to the buyers.
Okay, so the seller lists, and does the seller pay for listing, or do they only pay once it sells?
It's all performance based. So if it doesn't sell, we don't get paid.
Okay, so the seller pays 3% and the buyer 7.5 up to 10.
Exactly.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, so very good. I think that's quite impressive. I had no idea about the size of the French market, but I have to say it's more active than I expected, because I haven't heard of other like the Spanish or Dutch or German. I haven't heard of there being well-established marketplaces that are selling like a few millions worth. Are there any competitors on the French market? Are there any other marketplaces?
Yeah, there are. Most of them are open marketplaces. So pretty much like what Flippa is doing on the international market. I'm not going to explain the way Flippa works, but you guys know the difference between vetted marketplaces and free-for-all marketplaces. So the French market, on the French market, there has been marketplaces like that for years. Like since the beginning of internet, there has been websites where you can list your business for sale. But actual competitors, people who actually made it an activity and created a process to accompany the sellers and the buyers and protect it, let's say. We have one competitor who's been there for like 12 years or so, but they do half public and half vetted deals. And then there is a bunch of independent brokers. Like on the English market, you have a lot of very good independent brokers who have their own network and who do this job. But obviously, you won't find them making podcasts or building a website or whatever. They're more working in the shadows, I would say. At least on the French market, that's how it is. It's going to be really hard for you to find these independent brokers if you don't know already someone in the industry. So that's basically our chance today, let's be honest, having very low competition, having no competition, actually trying to communicate about the activity of selling and buying websites is definitely an asset for us. And at the same time, because nobody does it, it means we basically have to do all the job of educating the market. And sometimes it's a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest.
Yeah, I can understand that. And how does the market compare in other European languages? Spanish, German, others, other similar marketplaces like yours?
None that I actually know of. We haven't done a lot of research, to be honest. We decided to focus 100% on the French market and to restrain our want to actually start studying other markets so that we actually stay focused on what we do best for now. But obviously, I've been digging a little bit, seeing here and there, could we like buy one? Could we partner with one or whatever? I haven't found some doing the same work of communicating that we do. There are a few international marketplaces actually working on the European market, obviously, but I haven't found one per country doing what we do for the French market. There might be some, but I don't speak other languages than French and English. The other ones, I'm pretty bad at it. So I wouldn't be able, to really let you know if what they do is exactly the same as what we do.
And have you had any non-French speaking buyers on your market looking to buy sites in French?
Yeah, we've had some. It didn't work for now. Yeah. We've had, as I said, we've had more curiosity than actual purchasing offers, mostly because US buyers, for instance, they show up on the marketplace and they think like, what's going on with the prices? Like, why is it so cheap, right? And then obviously when we talk, we explain that it's not that it's cheap for you because you come from a market where this is crazy expensive. But in France, the price that we actually put online are the expensive ones. Like it's not rare that buyers tell us, come on, guys, you're like, pricing it expensive. And it's just 2 years. But that just shows how not used to buying websites the French market is yet. And when foreign buyers show up, they definitely find it cheap. But then obviously when you consider the cost of hiring a French team, handling French partnerships, for now, it's been a negotiation killer, let's say. But yeah. I'm quite hopeful. It's not being hopeful, but I'm quite certain that at some point, some companies are going to start actually considering buying French sites or Spanish sites or whatever other languages. But just to be able to apply what you guys do really well on the US market on foreign countries where the level of SEO or monetization is sometimes and often not even as good. Like, let's be honest, the French market is not as competitive and as hard to rank on than the English market. So I'm pretty happy to edit French websites as well, right? But I've always studied how to build websites on the English market. And I can tell you that most of the stuff that you read on English blogs, maybe you read 3 or 4 years later on the French market. You know what I mean? So it creates this gap in terms of expertise. And if you show up with your US expertise and you take a French site, you might be quite surprised by what's being done to monetize the site and how it's being done in terms of SEO. It's working, but you're going to be surprised that, okay, maybe I expected better,
Yeah. So, we talk about high multiples, but I remember 10 years ago, twice the annual profit was actually quite high. 10 years ago, the sites were selling for like 15, 20 times the monthly revenue.
So you mean profits. We're 10 years late?
We are a little bit. So maybe the same will happen in the French market.
Yeah.
5-10 years from now, the multiples might grow. So for someone who doesn't speak French, are there other operators, people who can help you manage a website at a reasonable cost? Is that a thing?
It definitely isn't. It's been a long discussion over the past 2 years. Ever since we started Dotmarket, we've had requests from buyers asking if they could basically just invest in the company or invest in a fund, but not have to operate the websites. I find that model obviously very exciting. I invested myself some money when Onfolio launched because I really like the idea of, just putting some money and in a field that I know, managed by people I know, and just see my money, profit from it, my investment get profitable. But it doesn't exist in France. It's really complicated to build it. We have so many rules in terms of financial systems or organization that as of today, it's not even something I could build if I wanted to for Dotmarket, I believe. And the best reason, and I'm going to give you like one thing that's going to make you realize how late we are when it comes to buying websites. There is no way to actually get money from a bank to buy a sole digital asset.
Yeah, in France,
it just doesn't work. Now, if you have a digital company and you want to buy a digital asset, maybe your bank knows your business enough and they trust you to lend the money. But there is no way that you launch a company or that you have a small activity and you want to raise some money to buy an active website alone, and that you'll get it from a bank. And banks are not doing it, but there are no other option. Like there is no one on the market making it easier to actually raise some money to buy that kind of assets. So this is a huge step that has to be taken first for the market, I believe. The moment it's going to be easier to raise money, obviously the prices are going to go up. People are going to be buying websites more because it's going to be easier. But as of today, it makes it hard. So imagine building a fund based on buying websites and operating them. I pitched my bank. They laughed at me. Like they looked at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. I had a similar experience with my bank back in Israel a while ago. They asked, like, I brought a check from Google AdSense to cash it, and they asked me, like, do you work for Google? I said, no, I use the Google Ad network I have a portfolio of websites where I use their network and I put the ads and make revenue from that. And then they looked at me and then they asked me again, do you work for Google? And in the end, I just said like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it's just, there was a huge gap. But then surprisingly, a couple of years ago, that was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And then a couple of years ago, I remember at the same bank, they asked me, do you get income from Google AdSense? Because if you do, we now allow you to pay taxes automatically. And I was impressed. I was like, wow, they've grown. So
yeah, definitely.
The banks are catching up slowly, but they're catching up.
Too slowly on our market. A couple of years ago, I tried and buy a website for, I think the price was like 20,000 euros. And the website was generating something like 3,000 euros a month. So
nice.
Super low multiple, right? We decided to go to the bank and raise 40,000 euros. 25 to buy the website and 15 to 20 to reinvest on the website because there was a lot of work to do on the SEO part. There were still some campaigns running on Google Ads and other networks that we weren't sure that we could handle properly. So we decided to ask like double the money we needed, but still, 40,000 euros for 3K per month, it's still a low multiple in terms of money raised. And I remember my banker told me that first she didn't understand how I computed that. Like she was like, how do you know that they're making 3,000 euros a month? Like, well, I audited it. Like, what's that question? I mean, I made sure I have all the papers. I can show you the invoices and whatever. She was like, okay, I don't understand it. And then how do you compute the fact that you're so sure that you're going to reimburse the money in less than 2 years? And I was like, well, the market says that the average value is maybe times 15. And by 15, I'm being like super realistic. we buy this business for half the price. So it means the moment I get the business, I can sell it and refund you straight away based on the correct market multiples. But I don't think that's possible. I don't understand that. We don't have any proof about what you're saying. So I don't think we're going to be able to lend you the money that you're asking. No.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, that's a crazy analysis. You can lend us 100K to buy whatever other businesses generating nothing per month. I can raise 100K to buy a unit generating a really small income per month, but you don't want to lend me 40,000 euros for a business generating that much per month. Okay, we're gonna have to find other ways.
Yeah, that's how it is with banks. They had it did not fit their framework, so nothing.
Definitely not. Yeah.
So did you end up buying that?
Yet.
Did you buy that website in the end? Was it successful?
No, we saw it as a sign that we shouldn't lose focus from the dog websites. So instead we bought more dog websites.
Okay, that's good too.
Less profitable, but closer to what we knew how to handle.
Yeah, so for someone who doesn't speak French, like, for example, if we were to go on the market and buy some websites for a couple €100,000, how would we manage them? What would it look like? Would it be difficult to go and hire some writers? Do you know what the costs would be like? And then how would we build links? Are there some services we could use? Yeah.
Yeah, that we do have. I mean, we are late, but not that late. So we actually have a copycat of Fiverr, which is called 5euros.com. So basically exactly the same name, but in French. And there are plenty of freelance marketplaces where you can find really good content writers. The cost is growing, but today I would say the cheapest article you can find around 30 euros for 1,000 words, but market price would be closer to 50 as of today. Unless you have big quantities of work, obviously, then you can find a bit cheaper. And then, we have a lot of marketplaces to buy links, definitely. Getfluence, Rocket Links, there are
like quality links that are like from real blogs, through outreach or guest posts. What do you think it would cost usually?
It can go from like 50 euros for like small contextualized links on smaller blogs that don't really know what they're doing. They are selling the link, but they don't really have a value of it. If you want to buy on big media sites, that usually goes like 2,000 euros or more. For those sites, it doesn't really make sense to buy the links. You can go through agencies that actually run outreach campaigns. There are not a lot, but there are a couple ones that actually do the job really well. They create a campaign on demand and they go to the press and get those mentions, those citations, and those links. But in between, you have all the platforms that sell links. And if you filter properly, you'll have really crappy ones, pretty good ones, and huge ones. But the huge ones are going to be usually very expensive. And then it doesn't really make sense. It's better to pay 20,000 euros for an outreach campaign and get a lot of really good links from them than buy them one by one and spend the same amount for like 4 or 5 links.
Okay, that's very interesting. So the content price sounds pretty similar to what we pay in English. And with English, of course, we need to have high quality of content these days. You cannot get cheap content written by writers from the Philippines, from India. It just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't rank.
So not anymore.
High quality, In French, it seems like the rates are similar, although the backlinks would cost quite a bit more, because in English, we are able to get backlinks much cheaper now for $100, a bit more, a bit less for like decent quality links.
Okay.
So that's interesting. And in terms of,
you could find, but it would be harder to find really decent quality links for that price.
And in terms of monetization, I imagine it's similar. You have Google AdSense, you have Amazon, you have probably fewer specialized networks, but you can find some good offers as well, right? For affiliate deals.
Yeah. There are, but not as much. Like we have lower RPM. Like for instance, you'll make less money using Ezoic in France than the same websites for the US market, because advertisers spend less money, and the rates are not the same. So you're gonna earn less. It's still better in most cases to switch from AdSense to Ezoic, for instance, but Ezoic is not going to be like a huge boost on your business in all industries. Sometimes it's going to be really good, sometimes a bit less. But there is no competition, no real competition to Ezoic. You guys have Mediavine and plenty others, AdStrive, I believe. Usually that's what you will find if you want to compare what's the best ad rates you can get on your website, whatever. On the French market, those companies don't actually accept French sites. They only work on English sites. And Ezoic is one of the few actually accepting French sites. Then we have Amazon, obviously. We have a lot of affiliate programs, but we don't have the same, again, education level of education in terms of how to pay affiliates. So, for instance, on the dog market, we don't have Chewy. Chewy made a big change on the profitability of English websites. I still remember back then checking English sites being monetized with Amazon, and then Chewy shows up and they have this huge percentage for affiliates, and they create the brand and they make a lot of money. We don't have that in France. Chewy is not available in France. And we don't really have, obviously we have big dog e-commerce sites, but their affiliate program is not as good as Amazon. So you don't benefit from a specialized site to convert better or to get more commissions. So that's a huge thing that impacts the market, is that it's a little bit more difficult to have nice payouts from affiliate programs, because affiliation is not as big as in the States.
Okay, and do you have opportunities for just buying a site that, let's say, monetized by AdSense, and you put Ezoic and you put more ads and just find those easy deals and then go and resell it for double? Is that common? Do you see that on the French market?
Yeah, definitely. Most of the old websites we get for sale on Dotmarket are monetized this way. Like just last week, we audited a website from 1996.
Wow.
1996. The people selling it are getting retired. They've been handling it for that long. It's a tourism website. It generates 130,000 visitors per month. And 7,500 euros revenue per month.
Okay.
Now, how do they make this money? That's where the funny part is. They pick up their phone and they sell banners to hotels.
Oh, wow.
I mean, banners, actual banners that people rent to have like a space to promote their hotel. That kind of website is gold, because obviously you can obviously put some ads, you can obviously put some affiliation links, which they don't do because they don't want to be in conflict with the hotels that pay for the visibility. And so you have websites like that.
But
that
that's good revenue.
Monetized.
Like that's good revenue already. If you put banners and affiliate links, I'm not sure if you would make more on the French market. Like if you put the ads and the affiliate links instead of that.
It's a good question. I do believe you could make more money because first of all, you could make more money because they don't have one hotel per city and they cover like a bunch of city in France. And they only rent like one space per page. And also there is a lot you could do to optimize, like do rankings, like position 1, 2, 3. They could add some rev share on the, not rev share, but a percentage on the sales that they generate. There is a lot to do on that. But obviously you could just leave the banners as is and just place some additional ads on the website, and that shouldn't hurt the revenue much. It should actually increase it. So yeah, you do have a lot of websites that are definitely under monetized because the people who build it, they just tried and make a living out of it, but they didn't really go that far in terms of how to optimize it. And those websites are really good for to buy, obviously, and eventually flip in a short period of time.
Would you recommend someone who does not speak French buy a site like that? Do you think that would be doable, or would you not recommend that?
That specific website, I would not recommend, because if you want to maintain the selling banners to hotels, which seems to be profitable, at least at the beginning, you would still need to speak French with the hotels. And most hotels owners are not very digital, feeling comfortable with the digital in France. I mean, it's not the biggest work. It's a couple emails, to make sure that they pay and send the banner and are happy with it, and until next year. Obviously, you wouldn't need anyone speaking French to place some ads and work on the affiliate part. But if you wanted to maintain the commercial parts, speaking with hotels and renting the spaces, I would recommend that you work with someone speaking a good French enough to talk to these guys, obviously.
Okay, very interesting. Well, thanks, Kévin. So I've learned quite a lot about the French market now. But to summarize it, as I understand, there is some market, there is quite a few deals, and the multiples are quite a bit lower, double the annual profit, but it's going to be really difficult to maintain if you don't speak French. But for our listeners who do speak French, that's probably a really good opportunity to look into for investing.
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, thanks, Kévin. So how can our listeners find out more about you and what you are doing to follow you?
Easiest, I guess, is to go on Dotmarket.eu. The website is in French, though, but we did create a page back then, Dotmarket.eu/investor, where you can basically leave your information. And if we have English website, or even if you're interested in French website, then that's the best way to get the information that a new website is for sale. And that's basically it. I try to tweet a little bit in English, but obviously our audience is mostly French. So you can find us on Twitter, but I can't promise that I'm going to be sharing a lot of English tweets for now.
Well, thanks, Kévin. That's a very interesting talk, and have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day too.
Domain Magnet is a leader in buying and selling online businesses with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnet.com for more details.